Welcome my dear listeners, stay with me to get the spoilers first. And subscribe to the channel. Let's find out what's going to happen on The Young and the Restless. Victor saves the Newmans, Matt's plan goes up in smoke and the fallout begins immediately. Wednesday's Young and the Restless episode picks up right where Tuesday's Nightmare left off, and the energy is all emergency. Matt Clark has already set the Las Vegas garage on fire, but Victor Newman won't allow the story to end in a massacre. Chelsea Lawson's desperate phone call and Victor's quick reaction saves Sharon Newman, Noah Newman, Nick Newman and Adam Newman from Matt's attempt to burn them alive. The explosion is still terrifying and Matt is still dangerous, but the Newmans do get out. That means Wednesday is less about a body count and more about the wreckage that follows surviving a very deliberate fireball. The episode opens with the kind of image that would shake anyone. Sienna Bacall watching Matt blow up the explosive device and set fire to the petrol station. The spoilers say she fears the worst in that moment, and it's easy to see why. Matt is still basking in the glow of having taken 4 Newmans off the map, and for a moment it seems like he's finally gotten the kind of destruction he's been after. Yet the blast is not the end of the Newman saga. It's the moment Victor is forced to accelerate and turn a desperate warning into a rescue. That rescue matters because Tuesday's recap made it clear just how bad things had gotten inside the petrol station before the blast. Nick was already in bad shape, struggling from the bad pills Matt planted, and Adam was trying to keep him conscious while Sharon and Noah realized there was no working phone and no easy way out. The recap also revealed Adam admitting that he encouraged Nick to take the drugs because he was trying to get his brother through the immediate crisis and intended to get him professional help afterwards. In other words, Wednesday's fire rescue isn't just a save-the-day scene. This is the latest stage in a crisis that has been deteriorating. What prevents the episode from becoming a funeral is the timing of Victor's intervention. The spoilers show that it's Chelsea's phone call that gets to Victor in time, and by the time he has the coordinates, he's quick enough to save the family before it turns fatal. That is, Victor doesn't just hear the danger and react to it afterwards. He acts quickly, likely dispatching his own people to reach the petrol station and pull Adam, Nick, Noah and Sharon out before the flames can complete what Matt started. Typical Victor Newman behavior. Cold, immediate and brutally effective when the family is at stake. The effect is that Matt's victory falls apart in real time. He might have turned the device on, but he doesn't get the ending that he wanted. His terrible plot goes wrong, the Newmans live, and what might have been a massacre becomes instead a devastating failure to eliminate 4 family members. The explosion still causes panic and Sienna still fears the worst as the garage burns, but the spoilers make it clear the family does get out alive. Matt's hatred is still dangerous, but the death trap he has created in the immediate fails. But that survival does not make the aftermath easy. When Adam and Chelsea are finally together, he is flustered and overwhelmed as he explains what has happened. When he finds out that she made the call to Victor, he is supposed to be unbelievably grateful. It's important because Chelsea might have easily wavered, tried to smooth things over on her own, or figured someone had already alerted Victor. Instead, she took the decisive step that almost certainly saved 4 lives. That kind of action on a show like YNR instantly changes the emotional dynamic between characters, especially from someone who has already been through so much with the Newman family. Adam's role post-rescue is important too, because the explosion doesn't solve the drug problem that got Nick in trouble in the first place. According to Wednesday spoilers, Adam forces Nick to admit that he is addicted to drugs and needs professional help. Then comes the next painful step. One thing is saving Nick from the fire, another is dealing with the reasons he's in this mess. The show makes it clear that Nick's survival is not a clean reset. Adam is the one bringing the truth out into the open, and he still has to come to terms with what the pills did to him. That truth isn't easy for either Sharon or Noah. Tuesday's recap showed Sharon catching on that if Nick is in withdrawal, he must have been using before he got locked in that room, which makes this situation even more complex. The same recap had Noah trying to find a phone to call an ambulance, finding nothing useful because Matt had taken their cell phones and the landline was dead. So when Wednesday comes, the rescue is not only about getting out of the flames. It's also about accepting the reality that Nick's addiction crisis is real, serious and long-term. Adam might be the first person to say it out loud, but by then everyone in that petrol station already knows it. That's why the rescue takes the story so quickly from immediate danger to emotional fallout. The fire is dramatic, but it is in the conversation about rehab that the real damage begins to sink in. Spoilers later this week hint that Nick may check into a rehab program, so the aftermath on Wednesday is already setting the stage for that decision. Nikki Newman is going to be crushed by her son's addiction, and Adam's insistence that Nick face the facts is part of that larger arc. This is more than just a save from Matt. This is the start of the work to save Nick from the addiction Matt made worse. Back in Genoa City, the other big story is Phyllis Summers and the battle for Newman Enterprises. Phyllis is accused of theft while Victor and Victoria cornered her with fake emails on Tuesday's recap. Christine stepped in as district attorney and Phyllis accused them of hypocrisy because they drugged a man. Pressure behind the scenes continues to grow on Wednesday, because Victor is not willing to compromise on anything. He makes it clear that there will be no negotiation and there is no reason for him to buy back what was stolen from him. This gives Phyllis fewer choices and more incentive to keep fighting. The legal fight matters because it is happening in parallel with the Vegas crisis. Both stories are about people trying to control the outcome before it becomes irreversible. Michael Baldwin still wants a compromise, but Victor rejects it because he believes that one outcome is acceptable and everything else is weakness. Meanwhile, Phyllis is still insisting that she will never get a fair trial with Christine as the day, and she wants time to make a countermove. That storyline is still dangerous, and the Vegas rescue doesn't do anything to make Victor any softer back home. If anything, it shows he can be just as ruthless in the family department as Matt is in the desert. Outside the fire, the week rolls on with the family and romance fronts. Lily Winters gets some good news about Malcolm Winters' situation as Kane Ashby's match as a bone marrow donor is confirmed. The next step is underway and Lily should be able to bring good news to Dr. Stephanie Simmons and Holden Novak. That gives the week at least one emotional win not rooted in panic or threat, and also reminds us that Kane is becoming important again in Lily's orbit because he's coming through in a life-saving way. In the midst of all this chaos, Billy Abbott and Sally Spectra also get a much softer, more romantic beat. And the spoilers say Billy will sweep Sally off her feet with a magical night and a rose in a night of romance. They are still working through the fears that her pregnancy has brought up, but the bottom line is they are now on the same page about facing those fears together as a team. That makes their story a counterpoint to all the violence and legal pressure elsewhere. Matt is trying to destroy families. Billy is trying to build security and reassurance. That emotional contrast is important because it gives Wednesday's episode a bigger shape. On the other, Matt's explosion turns the Las Vegas garage into a firestorm and forces Victor to act in time to save the Newmans. On the other, Adam is finally urging Nick toward professional help, suggesting the crisis may actually be a turning point for recovery. Victor continues to wrestle with Phyllis in Genoa City. Lily receives a better report on Malcolm and Billy's romantic night with Sally suggests a more settled period for the couple. It's an episode full of emergencies, but it's also an episode that sets the stage for what each of these families will look like once the dust settles. By the end of the day, Matt's plan is ruined, even if his threat lives. The Newmans avoid being burnt alive. Victor demonstrates once again how fast he can be when his family is in danger. And Chelsea's frantic call makes the difference between tragedy and salvation. But the emotional fallout is only just beginning. Nick has to deal with his drug problem, Adam has to come to terms with the rescue and Chelsea's part in it, and Sienna is left fearing the worst before relief comes. The fire is out, but the damage it did will burn through every storyline that follows. Young and the Restless spoilers. Nick shares a terrifying secret about Matt's ally before dying. Nick falls out from Matt's bad fentanyl. Victor's people save the Newmans from burning alive. Then the fallout goes right into Nick's addiction crisis. And so the story below plays like the darker what-if of that moment. Nick's last confession about Matt's ally, just before the room explodes emotionally, not just physically. Las Vegas is a mess even before the confession comes out. Riza gives them the address and they head out, only to arrive at the petrol station just as Sharon and Noah are trapped and Matt has turned the place into a death trap. Adam tries to keep Nick moving, but Nick is already in deep trouble after taking more fentanyl. The recap shows him collapsing unconscious as the others are still working around him. That's where the story moves from being about rescue logistics to being about whether Nick can stay conscious long enough to say what he knows. But in this version of the scene, Nick's terrifying secret isn't some random rumor. It's what he's been putting together about Matt's Vegas ally. The one helping to grease the gears of the whole setup. That role is now most likely to be filled by Riza Thompson, who has been trading information and playing both sides and encouraging suspicion from those around her. Riza first betrays Matt for the right price. Then Sienna immediately distrusts her and suspects she is still working with Matt, which is exactly the kind of ambiguity that makes a soap ally turn into a nightmare. That gives Nick something to say before he goes under for good. He realizes Riza has not just been a loose source or a frightened civilian. She has been the hinge in Matt's whole operation. If she's been feeding Matt information but only giving Nick and Adam enough to keep them moving, then she's the reason Matt's one step ahead. In the rumor version, Nick finally tells Adam and Sharon, not as a straight accusation, but as a half-gasped warning that Matt's ally is the real issue because the ally knows how to twist the Newmans' rescue into something against them. That reading fits with the current recaps, which have Riza leaking vital information, Sienna asking if she's working with Matt, and Matt somehow still managing to turn every advantage into a worse trap. The emotional punch works because Nick is already in the middle of a larger crisis. Adam has been urging him to admit that he has a drug problem, and the latest recap shows Adam even telling him to do whatever he needs to do for the moment to survive the rescue and promising help afterwards. Which means Nick isn't dying of shock or smoke inhalation, he's crashing under the weight of the addiction Matt weaponized. In the rumor version, that's why the terrifying secret is so important. Nick's last coherent thought is not only survival, but exposing the hidden person who made Matt's plan possible in the first place. Things get even darker as Matt is not only setting a physical trap, he is witnessing his own cruelty in real time. The April 28th recap makes it clear he intended to turn the petrol station into a fireball with Nick, Adam, Sharon and Noah inside, and the April 29th spoiler says he detonates the explosive device with Sienna looking on in horror. So any final words from Nick are happening under the clock of Matt's surveillance and the threat of immediate death. The villain, in a classic soap move, thinks he's wiping out the evidence, but the victim gets a last chance to point right at the hidden rot beneath the scheme. Sienna's arrival makes the whole thing even more unbearable. The recap has her running to Vegas, confronting Riza and Chelsea, and not believing Riza's story straight away because she thinks Riza is in cahoots with Matt. Then in the April 28th recap, Sienna gets into Matt's passenger seat, begs him to stop, even proposes a future together if he'll walk away from the blast. That's quite a swing of emotion. From suspecting betrayal to trying to save everyone by appealing to the last shred of feeling she believes Matt still has. It's also a perfect counterpoint to Nick's secret, because while Nick is trying to name the truth, Sienna is trying to talk a monster down. If the rumor version of the story plays out in full, Nick's confession to Sharon and Adam would come just before he slips into total unconsciousness. He may not be able to give a slick explanation, but he can get enough out to matter. Riza has been playing both sides, Matt has been using her as a conduit, and the petrol station isn't just a random trap but a carefully timed move based on inside information. That kind of revelation explains to Sharon and Adam why Matt was always one step ahead, why their rescue was always just a little too late. The current spoilers already reveal that Matt's plan involved an explosion and that Riza was involved in leaking information. So the terrifying secret is really the missing puzzle piece Nick is trying to give them before the last light goes out. The aired arc does not confirm death, and this also explains the story's title of Before He Dies. Nick's story is being told as a life-threatening crisis, and current spoiler flow says Nick hits rock bottom. Then rehab is the next big step. In other words, the show is speaking in the language of death about how close Nick is to losing all of it. His family, his health, his sobriety, and possibly his chance to take down Matt's ally cleanly. If the rumor version had gone all the way to a death scene, Nick's last secret would have been a final confession. Instead, it becomes the warning that helps set up the rescue and the rehab story as it is. The second layer of emotion is Adam. In the recap, Adam feels horrible for letting Nick take the drugs and offers to help afterward, and later reconnects with Chelsea after the rescue. Adam learns that it was Chelsea who had called Victor and he should be thankful. This is significant because it lends the confession scene a family resonance. Nick's secret is not just a plot clue, it is what tells Adam and Sharon why they almost lost him. And it also means Adam's guilt is amplified by the fact that he was right there, attempting to physically save Nick, while Nick was trying to tell him the deeper truth about the person behind Matt's plot. And it is Chelsea's part that prevents the secret from dying with the fire. She makes the frantic call to Victor, and it is how the Newmans get out alive and not burnt in the garage. The upshot is Nick's last warning about Matt's ally becomes part of a longer rescue chain. Riza leaks, Chelsea notices, Victor mobilizes, and the family survives. The rumor version of Nick reveals a terrifying secret before he dies works on the same narrative logic even if the show doesn't go that far. Because the point is Nick finally sees the hidden ally for what she is and gets the warning out before the blast can silence him. Here the story shifts from thriller to fallout, the aftermath. Victor's people rescue the Newmans, but Nick still has to face the truth about his addiction, and spoilers say he may go to rehab in the weeks to come. Nikki is devastated and Adam tells Nick to get professional help. That means the secret Nick reveals is part of a much larger reckoning. Not just exposing Matt's hidden ally but forcing the Newmans to face the damage that Matt and the drugs have done to Nick. A fireball might take out the garage, but it can't erase the addiction, the betrayal, or the fear that someone close to Matt was feeding him information all this time. So the spoiler story version of this rumor is basically a last-second confession wrapped up inside a survival crisis. Already crumbling under Matt's bad drugs, Nick discovers that Riza, the friend at the center of the Vegas intel game, has been playing both sides and helping Matt stay one step ahead. He tries to warn Sharon and Adam before the explosion or before he passes out, and that warning is the clue as to why Matt's trap was so hard to beat. Then Victor's rescue saves the family, Matt's plan is ruined, and the story changes from Nick dies with a secret to Nick lives long enough to force everyone to face the secret. Either way, the heart of the story is the same. Matt's web only works because someone inside it keeps feeding him the truth, and Nick is the one who figures it out first. This is the kind of episode that proves survival isn't the same as victory, and that truth hits harder the longer you sit with it. The young and the restless just flipped the script. Because yes, the Newmans lived, but emotionally they're walking out of that fire completely changed. And honestly, I don't think Victor Newman saving the day is the real story here. I think it's what comes after, when even he can't control the damage inside his own family. Because look at this closely. Nick Newman didn't just survive an explosion. He hit a point where the truth couldn't stay buried anymore. And once that door opens, everything gets messy. And here's what really stays with me. Sometimes the biggest explosions don't destroy buildings, they expose people. And that's exactly what this felt like. Now add the suspicion around Riza Thompson. And suddenly this isn't just a rescue story, it's a betrayal story waiting to explode next. Because if Nick is right, then the danger was never just Matt, it was someone standing close enough to watch everything unfold. And that kind of threat doesn't go away quietly. So let me ask you this. Do you think the Newmans can ever trust the people around them again after this? Or is this the moment where paranoia takes over everything? And what about Nick? Is this rock bottom finally the turning point he needs? Or just the beginning of a much darker spiral? Like, this rescue wasn't the end, it was a reset button. And the next phase is going to be more psychological than physical, more betrayal than fire, and a lot harder to survive. If you felt the shift in this episode, keep your eyes on the small details next. Because in stories like this, the quiet moments are where the real danger starts to grow.